Hey spooky crew! If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jacqueline and this is Makeup Tales. On Tuesdays, I post a video where I complete a makeup look while narrating a spooky scary story. And on Thursdays and Saturdays, I post just spooky narrations. If you're interested in makeup, and you like spooky content, I suggest you comment, like, and subscribe. Disclaimer. The following story is intended for a mature audience and may contain graphic depictions, death, gore, sexual themes, and adult language. Viewer discretion is advised. Today, I bring you guys a story by Reddit user Erutious. If you guys are interested in the story, you can check it out. The link is in the description below. You'll also find links to the Reddit user's storybook, Patreon, and GoodReads account. Alright, let's get started. I hovered over my laptop as I tried to find the words I was looking for. I'd been at a standstill for weeks, and I needed to get it finished so I could... What exactly? So I could send it in and receive my latest rejection letter? I'd been writing for years, and after being laid off thanks to the pandemic, I'd written twice as much as I usually did. All it ever seemed to net me, though, was rejection. My wife was being patient about it, but as the bills racked up and the money coming in barely fed my family, I could tell that this joblessness was getting to her. If I could just get my hands on some money, everything would be better. If I could just finish this book, I knew it would get this life back on track. The idea had been brewing for years, but it was finally starting to come together. Forests of Ellenmore had all the earmarks of a great fantasy story. There was action, intrigue, forbidden love, warring nations, a believable magic system, and it was so different from the dreck that was currently on the market. I knew it would be a bestseller if I could only finish it. My computer chimed, drawing my attention from my passion project. I saw that I had a new email, and I sighed. Probably another late notice, or a message about my account being overdrawn. The sender was unfamiliar, though. A company named Libras Talent, who had a special offer for me. I started to delete it, but something stopped me. Something nagged at me to open it. Maybe it was just the life-changing offer I'd been waiting for. I opened it, wanting to see what sort of ridiculous offer they had for me. Thinking it was probably a sales pitch for a magazine subscription. As I read, though, I felt my eyebrows go up. This was a little more than a magazine subscription. Dear Mr. Harrow, we at Libras Talent have been following your recent hardships with great interest. We understand that times are hard just now, and we'd like to reach out a helping hand to struggling writers like yourself. We would like to extend to you a chance to sell your talent to Libras Talent. We pay top dollar to talented individuals, and we would love to add your talent to our company's ever-growing pool. We look forward to your visit. See you soon. Mr. P. Seraph. There was a phone number at the bottom of the email, along with an address for Libra's talent. I looked at it for a moment, rereading the email, before closing it and starting my story again. As I'd thought, some scam company trying to take advantage of people in the current climate. I started writing again, erasing more than I kept, but I found myself coming back to the email again and again. What sort of talent were they looking for? Were they offering work? Were they looking to represent me? The more I thought about it, the more intrigued I became. I could use the money, and if I didn't like what they had to say, I could always refuse. I reopened the email, and after Googling the address, I closed my laptop and left. The sooner I talked to them, the sooner I could get back to work. The address led me not to a rundown strip mall, as I had suspected it would, but to an elegant office building. It was clean, the grounds well maintained, with a large sign over the door declaring it to be Libra's talent. This place looked more like a law firm than a fly-by-night operation. I rechecked the address to make sure I had entered it correctly. Sure, I was in the right place. I stepped inside and was welcomed inside by a deep chime overhead. Suddenly, I was overcome with a strange sense of vertigo, and I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself. The starkness of the room shocked me at first glance, and the walls had a strange sort of depth to them that seemed bottomless. It hurt my head to look at them for too long, so I turned to focus on the rest of the room. There were no chairs, though. No love seats to mar the illusion, no table of magazines to make the room look cluttered. Only a reception desk with a smiling woman manning it. Her smile was a trifle unsettling, and I became worried that it might extend all the way back and slice the top of her head off, just above the ears. "Greeting, Mr. Harrow. Go ahead. Mr. Seraph has been expecting you," she said, pointing to the door beside the desk. I was suddenly hesitant. How did you know who I was?" "We've been expecting you," she said, still flashing that brilliantly unsettling grin. "Go ahead, sir. It's not good to keep Mr. Seraph waiting." I wanted to question her further about this mysterious Mr. Seraph, but felt it might be safer to just do as she said. She had turned that smile away from me, returning to her work. I was left with no other option but to proceed or leave. I walked into a hallway lined with identical white doors that bore little name plaques. The hallway seemed to go on much farther than the outside of the building had led me to believe. And I wondered if it were an illusion or something. As I walked, I thought I could hear strange sounds from behind some of the other doors. It made me feel uncomfortable to linger outside them for too long. Voyeuristic somehow. I walked until I found Mr. Seraph's door and knocked. He invited me into an office as stark as the lobby. Mr. Seraph was a minimalist, it seemed, and his office contained a desk, 2 chairs, and a black book with a handsome silver pen sitting beside it in a holder. It had none of the photos or clutter common to a working man's desk. And I found this as odd as the office itself. Mr. Seraph was a well-kept man who looked about 30, his blonde hair curtaining his face in a European style as meticulous as his white suit. When he smiled, though, I suddenly felt the urge to run. His too wide grin reminded me of the Cheshire cat, and his two big eyes reminded me of the big bad wolf. I was suddenly very afraid of being gobbled up, bones and all. If Mr. Seraph noticed my discomfort, it bothered him a little. "Mr. Harrow, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." I sat without really meaning to. The man's voice compelled me with its dulcet tones. It had made me forget about my unease for the millisecond it took me to plant my rump. This also put me on eye level with the strange book, and I felt my eyes drawn to it as it hunkered on the desk. I almost imagined I could see it breathing as it sat there, watching me, and I felt that it liked having me so close so that it could suddenly leap out. "And I trust you found the office easily? It wasn't like to be what you were expecting, I would wager. How did you know I would come?" I stammered, dragging my eyes off the strange book. "Oh, we've been assessing your talent for quite some time. We feel it could use a more ambitious hand, someone likely to make better use of it. We would like to utilize your talent, as we do with many unambitious individuals. You will be compensated, of course. Times are hard, and a man with no job has to feed his family somehow. What do you say? Do we have a deal?" he purred, setting the bait like a talented angler. I, however, was wary. This smiling man seemed to know all about me, but I knew nothing about who he was or what he expected. Who the hell was this guy? I was certain I'd never seen anyone like him before. But somehow, he knew all about me. How long had he been watching me? And why was he so interested in my talent? Every time he said it, I could hear the capital T he put on the word, as if it were something mystical. "How is it that you know so much about me, but I've never seen you before in my life?" "Oh, we know a lot about you, Mr. Harrow. We know you've been out of work for almost a year. We know that your wife has become the sole breadwinner for the household and is barely getting by. We know you are in a great amount of debt, and that debt is likely to get deeper without a miracle or the untimely accessing of your life insurance." I started to become indignant, but Mr. Seraph put up a hand. "But that is behind you now. With the money we intend to pay you for your considerable talent, you can live the life of a free man once again. Take back what's been stolen from you. Clean the slate. Start fresh. What do you say?" Suddenly, there was a check in Mr. Seraph's left hand and a pen in his right. The amount on the check was considerable. With that kind of money, I could settle my debts and could survive until this pandemic was over, if I was careful. I could get out from under this funk I'd been squashed beneath and see the sun again. The black book was open between us. When had that happened? And it seemed to be waiting, greedily longing for my signature, for my talent. I took up the pen without hesitation. My sweaty hand took the check from the other hand and stuffed it into my pocket as I bent to sign my name on the rough top sheet. As my name lay across the page, I tried to sit back up, but was unable to move. I tried to pull my hand back, but it was outside my control now. My hand moved furiously, and words spilling from the pen as they formed across the page. Words became sentences. Sentences became pages, paragraphs, chapters, and finally, whole novels. I could only watch in horror as it all spilled out of me. The pages rifled, turning, accepting my ink, accepting my talent. And I screamed and begged for it to stop. My hand, however, gave away all I had and more. The pages swallowed it all, swelling to a monstrous size as I wrote. I hadn't known I had this much in me, and soon the ink began to trickle from the pages like an oozing wound. It pulled around me, rising like a tide. And I saw Mr. Serap's smiling face disappeared beneath the liquid tar before my vision was covered in murk. Even as I descended into blackness, I wrote. I awoke on the couch, breathing heavily, the evening news just finishing up. In entertainment news, it looks like fans of Mark Daniels will have something to celebrate soon. He tweeted today that he's begun a new novel, Tribes of Ellenmore. Fans of his talented writing can't wait. I gasped. That was my book! Not anymore, though, it seemed. It was gone now. And as I sat on the couch and tried to remember, I couldn't even think of what it had been about. It had been a fantasy story set in somewhere. There had been elves. It was gone. It was all gone. I remembered the pages upon pages in the black book and wondered if it was the only thing that was gone. I felt something in my pocket, then I reached in to find the crumpled check. Pay to Mr. Harrow. Memo. For your talent. I now suspected that this transaction had been more Fauchion than I had believed. As the check said, they had purchased more than a book. They had purchased my talent. I felt tears slide down my face as I came to realize what I had sold. In the end, it might have been less painful to sell my soul than my talent. I hope you enjoyed this week's narration. The link for the story is in the description below. Also, along with the link to all my socials and my email if you guys have a story you would like me to narrate. And remember, stay spooky and stay glamorous. And I will catch you guys next time.